Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party, and my buddy Rhett, and I have her walnut. I cracked it for her and everything. Half of it fell out, and our little Jack Russell Terrier ate it right up. So I guess walnuts. I guess dogs like walnuts. There you go. Anyways, here we go. Let's see. It is 8:15 a.m. I'm finally starting to get out of vacation mode. Um, it's tough. It's very, very difficult when you kind of get into your routine. But the thing is if you get too intense in your routine, then you get what I call being wound up. And you get too wound up and you sort of get all stressed out and freak out. So, it's important to get a vacation once in a while, take some time off. Unfortunately, I'm in a position where I can't really take more than a day or so off. And usually I can't really choose myself because it's decided for me. Although my boss did say, and I'm going to start trying to figure out how to take advantage of it, that I can like sort of work like 40 hours like in 10 days and take a Friday off if I want to take a Friday off or something. So I actually might do that next week. No, I guess I was thinking about doing it next week. Me and my wife are gonna be out of town for just the day, for the during the daytime, going to a convention for tumblers. A tumbler is like a what we call like a drink thing. So, man, there's so much going on with. I guess there's just massive layoffs going on in all the major American corporations. I don't know if this is a worldwide phenomenon or if it's just the United States. But here in the United States, like all of our big tech companies, and not just our big tech companies, but like also like the grocery stores and stuff like that are doing massive layoffs, and a lot of especially very young people are like in their minds this is a very novel experience. Like they're like, this is the first time it's been really hard to find work, but no, it's just not true. We definitely go through ups and downs like this, so it's just the way it goes. Um, so it is 8:17. It's, I don't know, probably like 77 degrees, something like that out there. Probably feels like 76 degrees. Let's see, what does it feel like? I would say it feels like 83. So let's see what my guess is. Man, it's being slow this morning, and then it didn't even give me the weather. That's lame. So normally I click on the weather and it brings up the weather, but this time it brought their news up. Let's see. Feels like 87. 77 feels like 87. High of 92 today. So that is that. Should be a fun day. It's hot. It's hot. 92. I guess that's like 37, 36 degrees centigrade, or Celsius. And it looks like the sun is coming through. Though my windows are very, very um, got water all over them and all that. So, anyways, we're trying to get to 100% coverage, and basically, more importantly, trying to sort of do a deep dive into like a lot of kind of muscle memory ways I've figured out to do things that work, but maybe there'd be a better way to do it. And I will say that the reason I generally advocate against unit testing in professional environments is actually playing out perfectly in here. And this was not my plan, but as I was thinking about it, I was like, man, I am getting to where I've just completely taken my eye off the ball. Like I couldn't care less about the application right now. All I care about is my craftsmanship, how I code things and stuff like that. Which, since this is something that I'm doing just so that, well, okay, I feel weird because literally every day I'll say this, I do this because of this, and then it's something different every single day. But one of the many reasons I do this is to become a better developer, and really more than anything more than anything in the context of becoming a better developer, not more than anything in general, but more than anything in the context of becoming a better developer. um, creating enterprise-like problems in a non-enterprise-like environment, because there's just things that come up when you work in the enterprise that just don't come up if you're just doing practice code or if you're just doing something like that. And so that's what I'm doing. But so I've got 100% in every file except for this visualization service. Now it is interesting because I say every file except for visualization service, because if you think about it, I don't know how many files there are, but it looks like there's like, does it tell you? No, it doesn't tell you. But it looks like there's probably like 20, more than between 20 and 30, probably closer to 20 than 30 files on here. So you would think, oh, I have all but like 5% done, but that's not true, because there's 489 lines of code, and this is 137 of them. So this is way more than 20%, maybe even more than 25% of all of the all of the lines are in this one file. So that's like indicative of like I could say, oh, look at all this massive coverage I have, but it's just this one file. But this one file is everything. And if you look at it this way, if you look at it this way, it looks like I have like the vast majority of the files are 100%. But if you look at it on percentage of lines, like 25% of the lines are not at 100%. So it's kind of weird, like when you're sort of analyzing things, how you decide to slice things up makes a huge difference on how well you perceive yourself as doing. But anyways, I came across this code, and one reason I kind of want to get it a lot better, one is because um, I sort of figured this sort of scheme out to like iterate over everything and set the highest one and that kind of thing. I kind of figured that out like in the late 1990s, and I've just sort of muscle memoried it and all that. But that I feel like there might be a better way to do it, and this would be a great time to explore that. Now, obviously, if I'm trying to learn ThreeJS and how lights work and how cameras work and all that stuff, like this code here is nothing to do with that. So it's just kind of like, and that is like one of the, like I might one day say, the main reason I ever started doing this is so I could learn about ThreeJS and all that. And now I'm spending a large amount of time, high percentage of time, working on kind of coming up with a new scheme for figuring out what the largest something is. Like, it's just one of those things. But anyway, one of the things I had learned a long, long time ago is that code that reads like a narrative is much easier to understand than code that does like things implicitly. Love you too, Rhett. Um, so when code does things implicitly, that's very clever. It feels really good, but it's better if it reads like a narrative for maintenance purposes in the future. Like in real time, doing some sort of something that just works, just kind of like as a side effect of some code that you wrote, is like really cool and really fun. And when somebody else, like another developer, digs through it and then they like understand what you did, they're always like, oh, it's like a little fun feeling. But that's not, that's not an enterprise thing. That's like a school thing. That's like a educational thing. But in like if you're just trying to get the job done, there's a different way of doing it. But anyway, so I started going in that direction, and I feel like setting right to 0 is like that. The hey girl, um, is like very like reading a story. Okay, we're gonna set it to 0 by default, and then I even have a couple comments in there. Assume the next right is the furthermost right. So that's just a general info it's not really part of the. That's not really part of the story. You know, it's not sort of the story. This is initialize right to 0, 0. So that's really the first thing, and that's really number one. Number one. Set right to 0 to start. And then number 2 is create a new list of visualizations sorted. So basically we create a function, get horizontally sorted visualizations. At first I think I said I'd get sorted, and then I was just like, okay, that's not quite enough for in the future. I'm thinking about future me. Future me won't necessarily understand if I say get sorted, what it's sorted by. Oh, get horizontally sorted. Okay. And then and then the other major reason I want to kind of get in here and make this a little bit easier to understand in the future is because I'm confident that this is not how I want it to be in the end, but I'm not sure how I want it to be in the end. So I want whatever code I have in here to be really easy to understand and come up to speed in. So now we want to get, right now we're taking a list of a row of siblings and we're just returning it, but we actually want to return a new row. And I believe, yeah, so this is a reference to it. So I'm just literally returning a reference to the same thing that it already had a reference to. But when I create a new one, what I'll be doing is giving it a new reference, but the new reference is pointing to the same objects. And I can't remember when you sort if it returns a new one or if it actually overwrites the existing one. So, and that's a very important thing, and that's something that gets broken all the time in applications, is people not understanding. Some of the JavaScript array functions return the same array back, and they just change it, and they change it so your actual array changed, and some of them send a new array back. So use the sort on a JS array. Does it return a reference to the same array, or does it create a new array? That is such an important question. It modifies the original array and returns a reference to that same array. So if you want to keep the original array, first make a copy like this. So that's important. That is an important detail. So let me do this. And I'm pretty sure the answer to this is no. I'm 99.99999% sure the answer. Do all array methods modify the original array in place? And see, this inconsistency, I think, is one of the things that really makes JavaScript frustrating and confusing. So, like push adds an item, so this modifies the original array. Pop removes an item. Shift, unshift, sorts the reverses the array. Splice adds and removes. Copy within. Okay, so these are all the ones that will modify it in place, and then these are all the ones that will create a new array. And so, and I don't know that I've ever seen it broken down like this, ever. I started coding in JavaScript in 1996, so that was 29 years ago. I've literally never seen a list like this. Now, 29 years ago, none of these existed. I think I don't even think push and pop and shift. None of these I don't think existed back then. But it's important to get a grasp of that. I would be like it's probably literally been hundreds of unfixable bugs that had been floating around for years that I've fixed just by understanding that sometimes arrays are changed in place and sometimes they are it creates a new array. So if I just do a sort, I'm literally just changing the same array. So sorted visualization would just be a pointer to the exact same array, but it's going to modify that original array. So at this point, I don't think I want to modify the original array. I think I want to create a new array, and I don't know why, but I'm going to take its okay, so can I create a copy with the I can't remember what this is called. Okay, so can I create a copy of the array with the okay, so you can create a shallow copy of the array using a dot dot operator. So shallow copy is sort of a way of saying what I was trying to express yesterday, is that it's making a copy, but it's not changing the values inside. So, so I can make a copy of the array and return the sorted version, and I don't modify the original array. If I don't not modifying, the benefit to not modifying the original array is the likelihood that things will make more sense later. I know that this is a sorted version of the array, so I have a what's a good way of putting that? I have a list, I have a folder, I have a container, a holder, I have a something like that. I have something that holds it, and it's a different holder, but it's the same things. And I know that I constantly, I keep going on and on about that, but man, it's one of the most important things I think in all of JavaScript. I feel like there's three huge things that if you understand them, JavaScript just gets a lot easier, and this is one of the three. I remember when I graduated from college with my electrical engineering degree, life had just been a real struggle up until that point. Like, I mean, we're talking like my quality of and my family's quality of life got like just immeasurably better because I finished college. And then so I got my first job, and just like the whole world was just a whole different looking thing. I mean, well, then I was so frustrated at first because I was like, man, everything I could do, I mean, I could have done all of this without my degree. Like, I was a systems engineer for Boeing, and I was just like, why did I have to have a degree to do this? I like literally lived just an awful life. Or it wasn't an awful life, it was a good life, but it was just a much harder life. But then like 9 months in, I needed something that I had learned in college for about 10 minutes. And I realized, yeah, they literally are paying me all that extra money and letting me live that much better lifestyle for 10 minutes. But what would they have done if they hadn't had that 10 minutes? You know what I mean? Like, they needed that. So, they were paying, but they needed to keep me, they didn't want me to just sit around and do nothing until that 10 minutes that they actually needed what I learned in college. But anyways, okay, so I've created a sorted array. So this is a create a new shallow copy of the array. So that is, if I was working full time, if I was working in a job and they're paying me by the hour, that was 45 seconds of work that I've spent several minutes on, maybe even 10 minutes on trying to understand things. And it's something that I would have done in 45 seconds. But when at some point I needed to like really start digging into these things, and getting and codifying it, solidifying it in my brain. And if it helps one person, if it helps one person somewhere in the world in the future, or if they learned something because of this, then heck, that's all bonus. That's all cream. So now I want to sort my array, and so the sort program is going to be okay. So sorted array dot sort. So sort accepts a function, and it's a function that describes what you want to sort things by. And I always struggle with this, but we know that it's going to get a ST visualization, and it's of type ST visualization, and that it's going to return two things. I could ask it again, but okay, so I would like to sort based on an attribute in a list of objects. I guess I should say object attribute. Great. I do like that. I guess I act a little sarcastic, but I actually do like the fact that they're trying. So locale compare. Okay, so the attributes are numbers, and I want to sort from largest to smallest. Perfect. So basically, we return a number apparently, and it's going to be sort st visualization dot left st left minus st and I guess they just by convention. Okay, so you pass in two things, and by convention they usually put an A and a B next to things, and I can't think of a better way to do it because I don't really understand what the A and B are, and I don't even know if that is always going to be the same. Like it could be that it's sometimes these context menus really it could be different from different versions of the of JavaScript, whatever is A left from ST. I feel like this, this sort thing was one of the very, very, very early things that they added in JavaScript, And okay, so I think we don't want this. There we go. And apparently we weren't using the B. The sort, I've always found the sort to be very, very confusing. So basically, it looks like this function returns a number, and that number is basically one of the things left minus the other things left, and that this will return the largest one. So let's just say log. So this is a perfect example where this is just so much easier to test if from unit tests than it is to try to test like by using the application. But I don't really like doing it exactly like this because I find that testing these sorts of functions that you pass in, these higher order functions, or these functions that you pass in, I don't know what it's called. So these compare functions and stuff like that can be quite challenging. So I do like to pull them into their own functions. And a lot of times people will make those private, and I don't really understand why people make those private because, like, so what? So someone can sort something, and like I can see why you would make something private that would modify like the state. So like suddenly things start acting weird because some rogue component somewhere decides to start modifying the state. But I don't see why like you would make a function that like a pure function that just takes something and returns that exact same thing and doesn't do any side effects. Why you would make that private? Like it seems like you might very well go, oh, I want to reuse that, and then go, okay, let's pull this into a utility or something. But if you make it private, yeah, I don't know. I think it's weird. Okay, so so we want our horizontal sort comparator. Is that what they call these? Yeah, would sort comparator be a good name? The function that compares values in the sort. Okay, so yeah, so we want probably horizontal sort comparator would be a good name. And it returns a number. And it accepts these two like this. These are the arguments. As you see, I like try really hard to like use the words because the right words because like when you're trying to explain things to people, what you get is a lot of like at some point you're going to have to try to explain some sort of abstraction. So like the better of a base that you can start with, you know, like the more words that you can give them where they don't have to think in the terms of abstractions, the better. You know, it does help you like from a career point to like use really solid language to explain technical things, which I think is probably literally the most important job, most difficult skill that a developer can have, and that could just be me. Like I was just thinking this morning how, like I, from time to time, I always think, so basically like when I was a kid, most people thought that I was not, like there was definitely something wrong with my brain. Um, and and most people just didn't think I was too particularly bright. And then, like, literally remember the very first day that I ever felt smart in my whole life, and it was like in, I think it was in 10th grade. I remember the exact thing though, and it was in algebra. And in algebra, we had this concept called I, which is an imaginary number, which is the square root of -1. And if you multiply the square root of -1 times the square root of -1, you get -1. So, if, but there is no actual number in our dimension, in our numbering scheme, that maps to the square root of -1. So it's just this imaginary number. And I remember the teacher explaining it to us, and she was literally reading straight out of the book. And she's just like, this is what it is. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, and I was sitting towards the front of the class, and she was like, this is what it is. And she says it again, and she looks at the class, and I'm like, okay. And she's like, and she reads the definition again. And I'm like, okay, I don't understand what's going on. I turn around, I look at the rest of the class, and everybody else in the class is completely and utterly confused. And everything she was saying to me seemed so incredibly obvious. And that was the very first time. So, like, maybe being able to express things in words that other human beings can understand is just a challenge for me, not for everybody else. But yeah, that was that was such a great day. And it was so wild because everybody, they all just looked confused, and I was just like, what is the problem here? It's so freaking obvious. Um, but anyways, so here we are. We have our horizontal sort array. Basically, it's supposed to take two. Now, we don't know if this works at all. Not only do we not know if this works, but we don't even know if um, if it breaks everything, right? So we're calling it. We don't know if it works and all that. So I know it. I know it. Let's go over here. Localhost 4200. Just say okay. So it rendered. Okay. So that all worked. Obviously we have more functions that are untested. So basically, we expect this to take two values and of visualizations, and it returns the number between the left one and the right one. That's all we expect this to do. And then we expect this one to be able to take a list of visualizations and in one order, and then return them in the correct order. And then over here we want these. So this is, to me, dirt easy to unit test, I think. I mean, we have to mock visualizations, but we've already figured out how to do that and all that. So it's 8:48, so I still have time. So I'm going to click here. This is the actual function that we want to. But as you see, this is like, I don't even know where we're at. So let me click this. And I think if we click back, yeah, see, it took me right to where I was at. So compares, so we want to create a new it, which is also called a specification, which is called which is basically a test, a new test. And I don't know why, but like literally every time I think about this, I automatically think about like how Angular has deprecated all of this and how it kind of feels like a waste of time, but it's still worth it. It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But I guess you have to constantly remind yourself. So when you create a specification, the first thing you want to do is pass in what's it called? An expectation. and we expect it to uh, return the value between the left property of an ST visual. So I find this to be very interesting and fun. I really do. It also has nothing to do really with our application. Not really. You know, we're the whole idea of the application is so we can have the studio that does ThreeJS and all that stuff, and we're not doing that. We don't even care about that. Who freaking cares? Well, that is to me the basic problem. Well, it's probably the basic strength and the basic weakness of unit testing in general. The basic strength of it is that it distracts you from like sort of it lets you focus on the purity of the quality of the code that you're working, but at the same time it also takes your eye off the ball, and someone has to care about the application. I do think that that's one reason why applications are like breaking everywhere and not working very well. And it's because like if you have 100 people working on an application, like if you have 100 people involved in the building of an application, so like basically the recruiter, the account manager, like everyone who's taking money and resources to create this application, the lower the number of those people that care about the application itself, the less likely it is to succeed. I don't know if this is true or not. This has been my sense. So like when you have an account manager, do they of a recruiting company, do they really care whether the actual application succeeds or not? I mean, they would rather, if they're good people, they'd rather it succeed than not succeed. Maybe they may actually want it to not succeed because maybe they get more work. They get to recruit more people if it fails. I don't know. They have their own agenda. Does the recruiter care? Sometimes, sometimes not. Not really. They don't have a lot of passionate care. Like if it doesn't really affect their lives that bad if the application doesn't succeed. Like, and I think as time has gone by, we've had fewer and fewer and fewer people of the number of people in there. Like if there was 100 people working on something back in 1996, literally like 95 of them probably actually passionately cared about the success of the project. Today it's probably like 8, 12, some very low number. There could be a bunch of people taking money from the application, like HR resources, HR people and stuff like that don't even know what the application is. So it's kind of like a direction we've gone in. But anyway, so I want to create 2 mock visualizations. And we don't even care if they're real or not at all, right? So we are just going to copy this one. And we don't even care about the render view child. We don't care about any of that stuff. So we're just going to get rid of all that stuff because it is a bit of a distraction. We don't even care about whether it's a top or not. We don't need that comma. I don't know why it's complaining, but we're going to figure it out. Oh, it looks like I have an extra closing bracket. Yeah, that was the problem. So basically we're creating a mock visualization, and this is TypeScript. This is not testing, right? So this is not part of Karma Jasmine. This is a thing, and we're basically going to say that it has a left of 0. And then we're going to say that it's unknown. I don't know why about 4 or 5 years ago you had to start. You used to be able to just say as ST visualization. You didn't have to say as a. Oh, it looks like we don't have to. Sometimes you have to say as unknown, and sometimes you don't. And I don't really know exactly when. and this would be like a perfect time to do that, to figure that out, like from a career perspective, you know, like okay, so now that was weird, right? So it, and I'm pretty sure that this is as unknown. No. Oh. Oh. I would really like to understand why sometimes you have to say unknown. Okay. Now do I have to do, maybe its problem is, let's see, how did I do that? As unknown, as visualization. Oh, you silly rabbit. Okay, so do I need the as unknown? Okay, so what okay, so I'm just gonna, again, huge detour. I don't know when in my life though I would ever do this detour. So this code, what does the as st, I guess I should put that in quotes. Do. I think when I ask that question, it'll give me a little bit more context. Okay, so it's a TypeScript type assertion. I would love to remember that word. It'll probably take me a little while, but I like that. It's a type assertion that tells TypeScript compiler, trust me, this object should be treated as. Okay, so warning, this doesn't actually, okay, so that wasn't the real question, but I do like TypeScript. I like knowing that phrase, TypeScript type assertion. Now, why do I have to do a type assertion to unknown sometimes before I can do the type assertion? Excellent question. When it often requires you to do unknown first, this is called a double assertion or typecasting through unknown. Typecasting through unknown. And it's TypeScript of forcing you to take responsibility for something. You must be responsible. Okay, so when it's like, I know this is wrong. Like, or not only that, this is super duper wrong. Hello as unknown as number. Okay, so TypeScript has changed around this over time. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, because I remember there's been times where you had to do it every time. And then now it looks like you only have to do it when it sees things are wrong. And this is called type assertion. Um, so I don't know, but and again, like I don't know when else, like in your career, at some point you have to like, as I've coded, little questions like that, thousands and thousands of them have just sort of piled up, and now there's got to be a time that you actually check this. Oh crap, it's 8:59. I gotta go. Bye. Happy coding.